Good day! A long time ago, in a game shop far, far away, I made a choice. And that choice was to acquire an Xbox One. You see, I had a choice to make. Get the Xbox, or get a brand new Winchester 94. And, well, I chose the Xbox. Little did I know that Winchester repeating arms would shut down, and thus I could never get a brand new Winchester repeating rifle ever again. But the game we're taking a look at today takes the sting out of that just a little bit. For today, we are taking a look at Star Wars The Clone Wars. Star Wars The Clone Wars was developed by Pandemic Studios and published by LucasArts. The GameCube version was the first to be released on October 28, 2002, with the PS2 version following on December 10th. And last but not least, the Xbox One version was released on April 22, 2003. The game's director was Greg Board, and it ran on the Zero engine. This game was, of course, released to cash in on the film Star Wars Attack of the Clones, released on May 16th of 2002. Either the game had a short development cycle or it was in development as the film was being produced. Likely it was the latter rather than the former. Star Wars The Clone Wars is a third-person vehicular combat game. In the game, you control several vehicles, ranging from awesome to kinda crap. But remember, ladies and gentlemen, this is a Pandemic/LucasArts adventure. While some of the vehicles might not be all that amazing, they certainly aren't bad or broken. You start the game controlling what the game calls a fighter tank. Veterans of the excellent, real Battlefront series should recognize it, although here it lacks the beam turret. The tank has two .22 caliber blaster cannons that do piddly damage, and two concussion missile launchers that you will never have enough missiles for. The tank levels are okay. The tank feels and is really weak, and you can die in just a few hits. It controls well enough, but it feels fairly floaty. The vast majority of the game will be played in the tank, sadly. The floatiness of the controls will get you killed, and you will rage. But, as is the case with most LucasArts games, you will keep coming back for more regardless. Then, you have the speeder levels. There are only two in the game, one on a speeder bike and one on a step. The controls for the speeder segments are really stiff and really twitchy, and when you first start playing the levels, you will not be used to them. Not only that, but the speeders go really, really fast. So you will be crashing into everything! Not only that, but this is a real game made by a real game company, so of course the levels are long, hard, and completely unforgiving. This is a game that rewards practice and memorization, and it makes it fun. It's not too hard, and while the checkpoints can be right bastards, they are not so much of a bastard that you will not want to keep playing. So these speeder levels, while aggravating and annoying, are just hard enough to be fun. And after you beat them finally, the rage goes away and you're happy to have played them. May the Sith damn thee, Pandemic! Not only that, we got this level right here, the step level. I thought I was going to blow up the goddamn controller, but after I figured out how to play the level, I started having fun. Then, not only was I having fun, I was having super fun. The kind of fun that is much more than just regular fun. Fun that actually becomes a legitimate memory. Remember how awesome the Republic gunship was in Attack of the Clones? Remember how that it was only one of a few small elements that were actually good in that bloody movie? Well, in the Clone Wars, this is the second most common vehicle that you get to control. And it is quite awe-inspirational. It controls way better than any of the other vehicles with zero floatiness or stiffness. And it's filled to the brim with powerful and awesome weapons. You have the forward blasters, the epic composite beam turrets, think mini Death Stars, and the gunship has 6 of the bloody things. And then finally, last but not least, you have the rockets. Every time I hear that pissant pilot say, "Sir, we're out of rockets," I just want to smack him upside his shiny pointy head and say, "You've got 8 other weapons! Use one beam and turn Dooku into chicken fried Sith Lord!" I hate plot armor. Then you have the AT-XT, which makes you feel like unto a god as you survey the battlefield, front. It controls well enough, but the head-turning mechanic takes a little getting used to. You can dish out as much punishment as you can take, and these levels are some of the funnest in the entire game. Then you have some one-off vehicles. You steal an AAT tank, and it works well enough if a bit slow. Then you ride Lizardback. The Lizard controls decently, but you're stuck with 17 caliber blasters, and the grenades that you can throw are utterly useless as they bounce off of enemies and explode harmlessly. Thankfully, you have a special weapon that does tremendous damage. Not so thankfully, it has a long recharge time.
Lastly, there are on-foot segments.
These are the worst segments of all. They should, in theory, be fun and cool, but damn are the controls stiffer than a bloody rod of high tensile steel. And actually hitting an enemy takes an act of the New Republic Congress. The only good thing here is the fact that these segments are short and sweet and to the point, and you can usually get these levels done with little difficulty. As you can see, when Pandemic sets their sights on the genre, they do not take half measures, and while they are being jack of all trades here, all of the gameplay styles at least work. Yes, even the on-foot segments are playable, even if they are not as fun as they could be. This game is about a 10 on the Mohs scale of hardness, but Pandemic was charitable and gives you all the bloody health and weapon power-ups you could possibly need. And this game has what I consider to be a perfect level of difficulty. It's hard, but not so hard as to be aggravating. It's just hard enough to make it personal, and thus ensure that you ram your head against that brick wall again and again. This is the type of hard that actually enhances the game. There will be times in this game where you will be shouting various expletives and loving every bloody moment of it. There will be times where you have one sliver of health facing dozens of enemies, knowing that when you die, you lose a big chunk of progress. And when you succeed against those odds, the feeling is one of euphoria.
Despite this game being on the PlayStation 2, Pandemic was still able to make this game feel like you were actually fighting in the Clone Wars.
I don't know how they did it, but every bloody battle feels huge. There are always numerous enemies to fight, and it always feels like you are only one man against an ocean of enemies. The battlefields are suitably epic, with huge armies fighting over territory.
Games published by LucasArts at this point in time always gave you something that you hadn't seen before. And in 2003, I had never seen battles that big before. It actually felt like you were playing the one good part of that horrid Attack of the Clones film.
Like with any good game from this era, there are numerous boss fights, and they are quite good and massage the pleasure centers of my brain. They are huge and feel legitimately epic. And while tough on the first go-round, once you learn their gimmick, they are easier to take down than a one-year Sith apprentice with a chip on his shoulder. The game's weaker missions are the Escort Missions, and the game has quite a few, unfortunately. The escortees have all the self-preservation of a TIE fighter pilot and love to run out in front of enemy fire. Some of your so-called allies do the same, and if they die, you go back. As befitting an epic game such as this, the end of the game has an escort mission that is actually fun. At the end of the game, you have to escort some ATTEs. They are under attack from all sides, and it will be all you can do to just keep one alive. Your mission here is to keep them alive to destroy some factories.
And of course, the last one would end up dying just as it destroyed the factory, meaning I still got a mission failure. Instead of turning off the game and throwing the bloody console out the window, I calmly started up again.
There are a few missions where you can command a squad, and they generally follow orders well enough. Just expect them to all get killed before the mission is over. Overall, the missions are legendary in and of themselves, and are just hard enough to ensure that you celebrate every time you see... The game also has a few secret areas here and there, and you definitely want to find a few so you can stock up on health and ammo. The bonus objectives you complete unlock more bonus content, but to complete the bonus objectives, you need to basically replace your blood and bone with Mountain Dew and Doritos, because those bonus objectives are nothing short of masochistic. Graphically, the game is still visually impressive even in 2018. Sure, this guy looks like crap, but look at this! That ship looks and is bloody huge!
And if you think all this praise comes from nostalgia goggles, remember, I've got super thick glasses that can only be ground in Finland. If I had nostalgia goggles on, I wouldn't be able to see the goddamn game.
And to be honest, I actually found myself liking this game more in 2018 than I did in 2003. I actually never finished the game in 2003 and gave up at the second to last level and moved right back on to Halo. Now that I'm older and more patient, I can actually appreciate the game more. And also back in 2003, I didn't want anything to do with the prequel, so I didn't give the game the chance it deserved. What we are looking at here today is the PlayStation 2 version being played with the PCSX2 emulator, and it emulates quite well, although there are a few rough spots. There is some slowdown here and there, and the cutscenes look like this. And sometimes when there's a lot going on screen, some graphical garbage shows up. But it never causes any issues, and the game is 100% playable, and it looks good when scaled up to 1080. And surprisingly enough, the game has a widescreen mode, and it looks good in widescreen. Back in 03, I had a tube TV, and that tube TV didn't even have RCA ports. I had to play my backs with an adapter that turned RCA to RF. So back then, this game would, to modernize, have looked like crap. If you showed me what this game could look like back then, I would have called thee a tech heretic. The menu for the game is also quite good as well. It is set on the bridge of an Acclamator class assault ship, and even has some aged but still decent looking clones walking around. By modern lazy standards, this is still next gen. Even the level select is awesome, with it being a galaxy map.
You know you are playing a real game when the level select is memorable.
Sound for the game is excellent, with the blasts and engine sounds sounding great. The music, as with all Star Wars games, is nothing short of groin-grabbingly transcendent. Too bad I can't play any for you, my dear audience, but Googlog, she is a fickle mistress. Voice acting is okay. The voice actors for everyone but Obi-Wan sound close enough to their film counterparts, but just listen to this guy trying to mimic Ewan McGregor.
Whatever Dooku is looking for, we can't let him get it. Let's go over the plan one more time.
I'm sorry. I just cannot love Jonathan Love. He just leaves me cold with his rather lackluster rendition of Ewan McGregor's Obi-Wan. The game also features Frank Welker as the Wookiees. As if I should be surprised, the man at this time was in everything.
Now, let's take a look at the story.
First and foremost, we got the LucasArts logo, and it is amazing in this game. It starts out with Goldman holding the little sun symbol like a rifle, and then boom, we cut to an army of Goldman all set to the excellent CIS theme. One wonders if LucasArts was foreshadowing the army of legendary games they were going to make in the coming years. The game's story takes place during the initial stages of the Clone Wars and has a fairly basic plot. You start the game as Samuel L. Jackson, and he has had it with these monkey-fighting droids on this Monday to Friday planet. He clears a path to the arena where Anakin and Obi-Wan and Jane from Thor are being held captive. The initial battles are quite fun, although Luminara Unduli has AI that is dumber than her bloody face paint, and you have to take pains to ensure that she is not blown up. This segment ends with a battle against some of Dooku's dark side adepts. Since this is a vehicular combat game, they of course all have shiny black tanks. I just get the mental image of Dooku trying to reason with these idiots. No, you fools, you need to use camouflage so that the enemy doesn't snipe you from 6 miles out. Then you got the adepts going, screw you, old man, we're painting the black cause we're evil and stuff. I do hope that Master Jackson lays his vengeance upon thee. With the dark side adepts dead, it's time to switch characters to Anakin and Obi-Wan. Throughout the game, you will play as either Anakin or Obi-Wan. And rarely, but awesomely, Master Samuel L. Jackson. The next level is set on Renvar, a planet that will go on to be seen in many other Star Wars games. Here, you have to evac a beleaguered garrison. Since this game just wants you to get to the fightin', the plot hurries right along. You were in the right place at the right time, and surprise! Dooku found a dark side weapon from the Great Sith War. Oh, the EU. How I miss it so. Even in this basic plot, they referenced established continuity. The Great Sith War took place 4,000 years in the past and was chronicled by the comic series Tales of the Jedi. The majority of the game had you facing off against Dooku's minions, all the while trying to stop him from getting his hands on the Dark Reaper. Don't fear it. The game even has Ulic Qel-Droma show up. He, of course, appeared in the Tales of the Jedi comic and appears here as a Force ghost. The levels all make sense from a plot standpoint, and the plot, well, basic works on many levels. And it never feels like Pandemic was just making crap up. Yeah, most of the time at least. One boss fight was a bit hilarious, though. Here, you have to break into a Jedi monastery to try and get the super secret Force technique to stop the Dark Harvester. And the Force ghosts attack you. Now, they should know that Anakin is a Jedi, and thus they should let him in, but nope, gotta fight him. And of course, they can just be blasted by a bloody tank, cause, vehicular combat game. And then you get the super secret Force powers, but when you fight the Dark Harvester, you still get hurt by it. Also, before you finally face the Dark Harvester, you have to face Sidon Prax, who I swear was hired only due to his evil name. He has absolutely zero character and only has a couple of lines in the entire bloody game. And before you face him, all you really see him do is this!
Truly, Jango's worthy successor.
And while Jango may have been cool and all, did he have a big bloody tank? I think not. Yeah, vehicular combat game. I think Darth Sudoku only hired him because he had that cool, evil name and a tank. The final boss fight is against the Dark Harvester, and it's a cool one, but this happens.
Use the Force to guide you.
How do I do that, Ulic? Is it X? Is it Y? Is it up on the D-pad? Come on, there's no button labeled, use the Force.
In reality, you avoid the Dark Force beam of death by either speeding to the left or right. Hokey religions and ancient weapons are no match for a good Panzerkampfwagen. After blowing up the Dark Harvester, Obi-Wan says, "Don't be evil, Anakin," and Anakin is like, "Whatever, old man." The end. A simple but effective plot, especially for a vehicular combat game.
So all told, when compared to other LucasArts / Pandemic games, this particular game doesn't seem all that legendary. Oh, sure, it is legendary when compared to other vehicular combat games, but compared to the quality of the average LucasArts game, this is just pretty much ho-hum. Or is it?
The Zero engine is what makes this game legendary. For without that game engine, we would not have the following: Battlefront 1, Battlefront 2, Mercenaries Playground of Destruction, and last but not least, Mercenaries 2, World in Flames. That's right, ladies and gentlemen, that is the legacy of this simple little pack-in title. This simple little game, so unassuming in its story and gameplay, led to 4 of the greatest games of all time. Without this game, we would not have Battlefront 1 or 2, the real versions, that is. And thus, the legacy of Star Wars The Clone Wars ensures its place in the pantheon of legendary Star Wars games.
Since its release in 2002, Star Wars The Clone Wars has been fairly overlooked compared to the other LucasArts / Pandemic games. And that's because this game is simply amazing. And well, when it comes to LucasArts games, that really just doesn't cut it. When you compare Clone Wars to, say, oh, I don't know, Battlefront 2, it kind of falls short, doesn't it? When you compare this game to, say, oh, I don't know, Jedi Academy, this just seems like, it's kind of generic. But you gotta remember, that's just the sheer quality of games that LucasArts used to bring. Still though, this game is well worth playing in and of itself, and I cannot recommend it enough. And so, I am GeneralLotz, and I'm going to wish you good Shadows of the Empire, and good Jedi Knight 2 Jedi Outcast, whatever makes you happy.
If you enjoyed this video, please consider subscribing, and if you can, please consider supporting me on Patreon so that I can continue bringing you this awesome content.